Welcome to episode 5 of the Triple Helix Robotics Instructional Video Series, Building a West Coast Drive. In this episode, we are using a drill jig to drill all of our attachment holes. And the skills we're going to learn is how to clamp up the drill jig on the drive rail so that we get our holes where we want them to be. And then we're going to use hand drills to drill our holes using the jig for positioning. So let's get started.
So in the previous session, you guys put in the bearing bores for the axles in the drive rail. This time, we're going to do all the remaining holes in this thing. I think the first thing that we do with that is figure out which holes to use that we're going to use from our drilling jig. And so Triple Helix made this drilling jig last year because we knew that we wanted to be able to really quickly make all the holes, or as many holes as possible in our standard design drive rail without having to use the milling machine for it, so that we could open up the milling machine for other projects. And we used it, I think, pretty successfully this past year. I think we were able to do all 4 drive rails within like one meeting, right? Yeah. So there's tons of holes on it, but really we only need some of them on each face of the 4 faces of the drive rail. So the first task is marking stuff out so that we don't get confused later. So we use Sharpie and alcohol for that. So there are some previous marks on here that we can erase, and then we'll start over. So in the previous session, you guys put these bearing bores in, and do you remember that the center one is offset from the center line of the bar? So the center wheels are dropped down lower, so that must mean that this axle should be offset down towards the bottom of the robot, which means that this face of the bar is the bottom of the robot. So let's just write that. All right, if that's the bottom, then this must be the top. All right, so that made sense already. Nobody's going to disagree with that. The other thing we can do is mark the inside and the outside. And since we're only working on one, it doesn't really matter. But imagine we were making 2 matched pairs of drive rails. Now here's where we would want to say, if this is the top, the other side's the bottom, and they're going to match up really nicely with each other, then this one should be the inside, and the other side should be the outside. Do we agree with that? All right, and here's where it matters. It matters because there's this hole which is gonna attach to an L bracket that sits right here and goes this way and goes off onto the ladder bar. And that ladder bar is going to go across the robot and join up with this one. And so there's going to be a matched set of holes on this bar that faces the other way. All right, that's cool. And then the other side is going to work the same way, like that. And the bottom is going to work the same way. It's going to, this little L is going to face towards the inside of the bar, like that. And this will make sense in a minute when we put our drilling jig over it and see how these holes line up with the marks. All right, so then the next section to talk about is this other line of holes, this one. And what these are meant for is attaching the superstructure to the robot. We have all these options for where stuff will go. And you guys remember that we kind of do that so that we don't have to design all the stuff that's going to go on the robot right at the beginning of the build season. We can afford ourselves lots of options to install stuff later, or even to change stuff later as we go through the build season, right? The way we kind of do that is we make those holes symmetrical to each other. So since we already have this half of a drive rail this way, let's make this one go symmetrical to it. So this line of holes will go on this side, and then this line of holes will go on the other side, like that. And then they're on the bottom, it'd be the same way. So this one is over here, and this one is over here. Do you see that?
Why are the holes offset from the center?
Okay, that's a good question. So the holes are offset from the center because there's a lot of stuff that's happening inside the drive rail. You guys know that, yeah, we've got these chains that are transmitting torque, transmitting motion from the center axle out to the two outside axles. So there has to be two sets of chains inside this guy, and on the center axle there's two pulleys next to each other, or two sprockets next to each other. So one kind of has to be on the inside of the robot and one has to be on the outside of the robot. And that lends itself to these chains being offset from each other inside the tube. They can't both be in the middle of the tube, which would have been nice, because we try to make stuff symmetrical whenever we can. So if these chains are going next to each other in the tube like that, then we should put the holes on the side where the chain's not going to be. So that if we have a screw that has to go all the way through the bar, which sometimes we do, it won't hit the chain on the way through the bar, right? The chain will be on this other side. That's exactly where the holes are not, right? This is made so that there's only really one face that we care about, which is this one. This one's the machine face, and this one, it doesn't really matter. So we left that's the raw material that comes that way from the mill. So it's blue, so it's really obvious that that's not an end that we line anything up to. So we put it on, and it's got this T shape, so it hooks on to the top of the bar, and then we line up this end with the end of the bar. And you guys remember that in the last video, or sorry, the last meeting, we made sure to cut this drive rail exactly to the right length, as close as we could with the measuring tools that we have, so that later we can come over here and do the same job, and we can use the two ends of the bar to reference our hole pattern off of, and we'll still be able to assemble things into the tube across those two hole patterns, and the tolerances will be okay, they'll be usable. So do you see that's under here, this little L pattern lines up with these set of 5 holes, right? Mm-hmm. And then this line of holes lines up with this set. Okay, but we won't do anything with these ones, and we won't do anything with that hole there. And then this way, I lined it up differently before. So this way it'll go this way, and then these holes will match up with the Sharpie mark I made there. And then I'll use this set of 5 for that part. The side is a little bit easier. All we really have to do, on the side, we're only going to use these larger holes. I can kind of tell you what those will do in a second. The trick to that is there's only one way it goes on, and it goes on with this T facing hooking onto the top of the bar. So it hooks onto the top of the bar, and you line up this end, and then you drill all these larger holes. Okay. So there's kind of an interesting thing happening here. There's a hole here, which is that one. And then there's this long group of other holes that are here. And then there's one over by itself over here. So what do you think? What do you think's happening with those? What do those do? I'll mark them out over that side too. There's one there. This is a group of them, and there's one.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of them connect to the gearbox. Which one do you think?
Those two.
Those two, yeah. Those two holes are what holds.
To the Versa block, right?
Yeah, exactly. These two holes hold the gearbox on. This one, these set of 2 holes, hold our snail cams, our cams that push our Versa block, which are bearing blocks, out so that they tension the chain. It's great. What do you think these ones do? All these tons of holes in those groups.
I guess. It would change.
Yeah, they're for attaching more stuff to our drive rail. So one last thing is that so these holes, all these holes pass. You can see they pass completely through the bar. But even so, we're gonna use the jig on all 4 sides of the bar. We're not gonna use it through. We're not gonna try to make the drill bit pass through the jig, through the first wall, and then through the second wall also. All right, let's drill some holes, I think. So we need 2 drill bits for this. And which ones do you think we need?
36, 35.
If you look really closely, I don't remember either. If you look really closely to this, you can see that the drill bit, the name of the drill bit is actually stamped into the drill bushing. It's really super tiny. So the small ones are number 21, and the big ones are number 9. Let's choose to use the screw machine length, the stub length drill bits. So the drill is going to be in high gear. So I think that's right.
Yeah.
And it's going to be on the drill setting. The clutch will be in the drill setting. And let's do all the small holes first. So let's use the number 21 drill bit and set up to do the small holes. So I'm holding the corner of the jig, that T that's on the underside of the jig, up hard against the corner of the bar. And I'm also, with this finger, I'm making the ends flush. The end of the jig and the end of the tube flush. Yeah, we're only using these holes, so anywhere in there is fine. And you guys are actually stronger than the tube, so when you crush the clamp, you're able to crush the tube.
We set it on there so that the jig was resting on the top of the vise.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. We're gonna use our marks, and we can reference this side to let us remember what's happening. You remember that these 2 L shapes go in the same direction, so that means we're gonna drill out these 5 holes. And then you can just go down this whole line and drill all of these holes. So this is a water-based cutting fluid. It smells like almonds. The drill bushings are super unforgiving. The drill has to be going basically perfectly straight, perfectly concentric with the drill bushing. So what I'd recommend is, with your finger off the trigger, you just you hold the drill with both hands and set the drill bit into the hole. Can you do the first one so that way we remember which ones we've done and which ones we haven't. All right, cool. So now with it, maybe hold a hand like this. Yep. And you can kind of feel how the drill is setting exactly up and down in the hole. Yep. Remember, you don't have to push down very hard. That's it.
Keep going.
Okay, so what went wrong there? Actually, there were probably a couple of things.
Yeah. It's probably tilted at an angle for one.
Yep.
Well, when you're drilling, you have to break your chips. If you don't break your chips, the chips will bind up in the drill and they'll lock the drill bit in the hole. And when it locks in the hole, then it will break the bit. When you drill, you put this thing straight, and your instinct is that you want to press down with the hand that's on the handle. You can't do that. The hand that's on the handle is only resisting the torque of the drill. All of your drill pressure has to come from the hand that's pushing down here, and it holds it in place. And this one is only here just to squeeze the trigger and to keep it from rotating. And then when you're drilling, you drill down in a little bit, and as soon as you start getting some chips, you have to pull out and clear those chips out of your drill bit, because if the chips get clogged in here, then they'll lock the drill bit in place inside that drill bushing and it can snap off. So when you drill, as soon as you see those chips, pull it out and let those chips get out of the way. So you're pushing pressure with this side, this one's just holding it straight. Clear your chips. Clear your chips. And then you're done.
See if we can take that guy out. All right.
Finish that.
Yep. Which I think was the fourth one, right? All right.
Good.
All right. I gotta keep going. Awesome. That's very nice. Let's do a set of holes on the side. What do you think about that?
Sure.
We'll do these ones. Do you want to set this up? So and this time we're going to drill all these large number 9 holes right on the bar like that. So we want to line up the jig against the space, and the T has to be hard up against that corner. This way especially, you are stronger than the tube, so you have the power to crush the tube if you want to. But just don't do that. Okay. All right, now we can put that in the vise. Awesome. The way we line this up is with the large piece of the jig up against the top face of the bar. And the reason that's important is because this one little hole, this one, is lined up with the center line of the axle. But all the rest of them are lined up with the center line of the bar. And you guys remember right from the start that this center axle is offset down towards the bottom of the robot.
The gearbox is designed so that it gets in line, so
right.
You could use it for something
yeah,
size for robot.
Exactly. So you can plug that gearbox into anywhere and all the holes would line up. We'll add some cutting fluid. Do you get the idea of using the cutting fluid as a marker so that you remember which ones to do?
Hot.
Oh yeah? One of the things I always think about is like putting my hand in a way that doesn't cover the vents on the back of the drill.
Oh, these?
Yeah. I don't know if it's important or not, but it makes me feel better. All right, so for this one at the very end, where it's right up against the clamp, when it finally breaks through and drops down, the chuck of the drill is going to hit the clamp and then push it to the side. And when that happens, then it becomes very easy for the drill bit to break. So we want to kind of protect against that happening. Nice.
Okay. So, undo it?
Yep. All right. So we've got 2 sides, half of 2 sides of this bar, and so we've got a system now that you know in the future we could connect connect together these two ladder drive rails.
Yeah,
all right.
number 9 is so much easier.
So I think we're done with this operation. Sweet. So we can unclamp it and clean it up.